In this video, we're going to learn how to set up a traverse in preparation for balancing and also how to get a traverse closure. I've got a project open with a traverse attached, and let's do a recoordinate traverse just so that I can show you what's involved in this traverse. There you go. You can see we've got preview lines showing us the path of the traverse. So what's happened is when you look at these purple and red lines, the red lines represent the initial setup and backside point, and the purple line represents the final setup on the backside point and the turn to the initial setup point. I've exaggerated the error just to make it easier to see what's happening. And then we can see from the green lines that the main traverse loops around these points and back to this corner. And you'll also see that there's an extra little spur line traverse that goes off to the side. Now, the spur line traverse needs to be treated separately because if we try and do a closure, this additional point will be included in the closure report, and we don't want it to be handled that way. So you'll notice in the traverse line here, we've got the occupy point record for 3A, and it's shown currently as a station, which is what all the other occupy points are shown as, and you need to change that by right-clicking on the selection bar and then going down to the Convert Traverse to Occupy toggle. Now you can see that it's shown as an occupied point, so this setup won't be included when you perform a balance. Okay, now let's check the closure. Now, before I go into that routine, I want to explain that I'd like to compute a closure on a perfectly closed traverse loop, and I'm also going to want to perform a balance so that my alias point and my initial backside point and my initial setup point and the final alias point have identical coordinates, so that the latitudes and departures are divided up over all the traverse minus 1. All right, let's go into that process. So on the traverse menu, we'll go to Compute Traverse Closure. Always a prompt here. Yes, I have run it. Now, because of the type of balance I'd like to perform, I'm going to pick Open. You do have many more descriptions of different scenarios which you need to read carefully when you get into them. Now, it's automatically identified the closing point, and it's suggesting 101. My main task here is to review the descriptions of the scenarios and pick the one that works best so that you know what point to match it to. But in this case, I know that 101 and 1 are aliases of each other. So I'll just select OK. And here I'm going to go to Copy because I know that 1 and 101 should be matched. So I can type in 1 and see how it copies the coordinates for 1 into that field. I'll select OK. Now it's asking me for a match for the point up here. It's also identified 102 as the closing foresight. And I know that 102 and 2 should match to each other, so I'll pick on OK. And let me show you an alternative method for selecting the coordinates for its alias. And I can go to Pick Point and zoom in on the drawing and select point 2 right off the drawing. Say OK to that. And now down in the command line, we can see the report on the closure. I can open up the command line to see some more detail. So I can see a report of the computed distances. We can see what the closing northing and easting are. We can see what their equivalent actual northings and eastings are. We can see what the distance error is. It's an exaggerated number just so you can see what's happening. We can see what the closure ratio is. Overall length, and then in closure direction, the angular error overall, and then the angular error divided up by the number of setups. I can also go into the log file and get a more detailed report. On the AMS Tools menu, go to View Log File. There we go. That gets saved with the project. Thanks for your interest. Please watch the next movie on how to do an angular balance and a compass rule adjustment.